Welcome to the WalterFootball.com podcast. This is episode 290. We're talking about the Jamal Adams trade, as well as some NFL opt-outs. Joined once again by Jacob Camenker for the first time in 3 weeks after I was in Vegas, and you were on vacation as well. Jacob, how are you, and how is your week off?
I'm doing great. I had a great week off. It feels like it's been like 3 years since we've done one of these podcasts. So much in the NFL world has changed, but I'm refreshed and ready to go. And I hope you are too. And I hope you hit a lot of money in Vegas and are looking forward to cashing those NFL tickets once the season rolls around.
Yeah, I hope so. I bet on a lot of NFL futures. Maybe we'll discuss that later. And for those watching on YouTube, you might be like, why is your mouth all red, Walter? Is that blood all over your mouth? It's actually cherry water ice. I was hanging out with the nephews. We went to some outdoor eating place. So I guess I was refreshed before that, and now I'm zonked out. So hopefully I don't pass out during this show. Speaking of the show, please hit subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, or hit the like button, the notification bell, like all that would really help. So we really appreciate it. Otherwise, I feel like we should just get to the Jamal Adams trade. So this happened on Saturday. It was a blockbuster trade that I want to say came out of nowhere, for Seattle, but we kind of knew that Jamal Adams was going to be done at some point. I just didn't expect Seattle. So the Seahawks got Jamal Adams for a 2021 first-round pick, a 2022 first-round pick, Bradley McDougald, who's a safety, and an exchange of mid-round picks. So, Jacob, what do you think about this trade and who won it?
I think the Seahawks won it for the sole reason that they're getting the best player in this deal. Jamal Adams is one of the best, if not the best, safety in the league. He's a proven player. He's still young. Yeah, they're going to have to extend him and give him a long-term deal, possibly worth the most money at safety in the NFL. But the Seahawks are a team that's ready to win now, and they needed one more piece on defense because their defensive line doesn't look great. Their secondary looked pretty okay, but there was questions about Quinton Dunbar. Would he be able to avoid the commissioner's exempt list? Spoiler alert, he did not. That happened right after the administrator, right before it. I can't remember which. So they went out and they grabbed Jamal Adams. So now they have another really good player in that secondary to pair with Shaq Griffin, Marquise Blair, Quandre Diggs. So they got a bunch of guys back there that can find success. And if Quinton Dunbar can get on the field at some point, that unit plus their linebacker core gives them such a strong back seven that they're going to be good. It's going to be really hard to throw on them. And if they can get any sort of pass rush from LJ Collier in his second year, Bruce Irvin, who they signed as a free agent, Benson Mayowa, Rasheem Green, those guys up front, this defense could be scary again. We might be going back a little bit towards the Legion of Boom, albeit a little bit less freaky because they don't have Cliff Averill and Michael Bennett. But for the Jets, I think you and I differ on the Jets' take on this a bit. I think the Jets did a good job. I think they got a solid haul for Adams. They shouldn't have put themselves in a situation where they had to trade Adams. I think that's the biggest gripe with this is that Adam Gase just hates talented players and finds a way to make them angry and get rid of them. They should probably have gotten rid of Adam Gase knowing that was coming, but Joe Douglas managing to get 2 first-round draft picks, a replacement starter at safety who is solid in his own right. Brad McDougald is no Jamal Adams, but he's a serviceable starter. And a swap of mid-round picks, it's not bad. I mean, I don't think it's anything great, but I probably would give the Jets a C+, bordering on a B- for this haul just because they're able to get 2 first-round picks. I think for the Seahawks, I wouldn't call this necessarily an easy A, but I'm going to give them an A- for this. The minus is they had to give up a couple early draft picks, but the Seahawks have been so bad at taking players in the first round that it doesn't really matter, I don't think. And they upgraded their team now, and they're in the toughest division in football. So I think it bodes well for them that they've added some talent there. So I like this a lot for the Seahawks. The Jets I'm a little lukewarm on, but I think moving forward they'll have more draft capital and kind of control the first rounds the next couple of years. So I think that bodes well for them. But I'm interested to hear your thoughts on the Jets and why you may be a bit lower on their haul than I am.
Yeah, so okay, let's start with the Jets then. So you gave them a B-/C+. I gave them a D on the site. I was like, quite frankly, I was close to giving him an F. I think that, baked into this trade is the decision with Adam Gase. It's like, if Adam Gase can't get along with anyone on the team except for Sam Darnold and the backup quarterbacks, like, why is Adam Gase the head coach of this team? Like I would fire Adam Gase, try to make up with Jamal Adams because it's so difficult to replace Jamal Adams. He's arguably the best safety in the NFL. He's still young. It's not like he's in his 30s or anything. Like he still has so many good years in front of him. So you can't replace someone like him. And it looks like the Jets got a great haul. Like they got 2 first-round picks and a swap. They move up around in the mid-round. So it's like that's fine. But 2 first-round picks sounds great. And then at first glance, it's like, okay, great. They got 2 first-round picks. And it reminds me of Peter Griffin in the Family Guy episode where he can get a car and the guy offers him a box and he says, oh, anything could be in the box, even a boat. Or he's offered a boat, not a car. Anything could be in the box, even a boat. First-round picks in the late 20s, where I think Seattle will be drafting because I think they have a great team. Generally, it's like a 50-50 hit rate there. So 50% of the time there's a bust, 50% of the time it's a good player. And generally, like sometimes you'll get a great player in the 25 to 32 range, but if it's a hit, it's probably just a good starter, which is fine. But so if you think about it that way, the Jets are trading arguably the best safety in the NFL for one good starter and a scrub bust. Like that's what they're trading for Jamal Adams. Also, I think that it's important for the Jets to win now. They have Sam Darnold on a rookie deal. I thought that before this trade, I thought they can go 7-9, 8-8, maybe even 9-7. They went 7-9 last year, even though Sam Darnold missed 4 games of mono. And I thought that toward the end of the year, they were building something. And with these young quarterbacks on the rookie deals, they tend to do well because you can really surround the quarterback with great players because you can pay up and because you don't have to pay the young quarterback. Sam Darnold doesn't have that much longer on this short-term deal. Like you're seeing Patrick Mahomes just got re-signed. Deshaun Watson will get re-signed too. And then next it's going to be Darnold's class. And so Darnold's going to have to be paid. And once Darnold's paid, like the Jets aren't going to be able to afford big-time players. So they really have this small window of like 2 years to really get going. And they kind of missed last year because Darnold had mono. So they really don't have much time. And so they're giving away Jamal Adams and they're basically throwing in the towel for the season. Like they're not going to make the playoffs without Jamal Adams. Like no question about it. Like their secondary is going to be so much worse. So I think it's just a very poor decision on their part. So I really hate it. I think it's absolutely terrible.
Yeah, your argument definitely makes sense. I can see why. If you look at the Jets defense without Jamal Adams, like you said, it's bad. Like they have some good players, like CJ Mosley's solid. I think they have some decent players in the secondary, but there's no big impact game changer on that defense. They just don't have one. And so I can see why you're low on it. And the idea of the first round picks is they kind of are lottery they're really lottery picks. It is like the Peter Griffin episode thing, like you talked about. So I can definitely see it. I think I'll officially make my grade a C+. You've convinced me that it should be in the C range. I am a little bit higher on it than you, just because I think I like what Joe Douglas did in this past draft. So I'm confident that he may be able to find some capable contributors with those picks. But I can see why you're apprehensive. Like they shouldn't have had to give up Jamal Adams. It's all Adam Gase's fault.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I do like Joe Douglas. I'm there with you. It looks like he had a promising draft. I mean, we'll see how it pans out. They got some big name players who have loads of talent and high potential. But you look at Mekhi Becton, Denzel Mims, like these guys have low floors as well. So we'll see if they bust or if they pan out. We just don't know yet. But yeah, I guess I'm more confident than not in Joe Douglas to find like a good player in the 25 to 32 range, but it's going to be very difficult to find someone remotely as good as Adams. And it's like a trend. Like the Jets are getting rid of talented players. Like they traded Leonard Williams. I know Leonard Williams never really reached his potential, but he was still a good player for them. And they traded Jamal Adams. Like this team with Jamal Adams and Leonard Williams, like they would make the playoffs, I think, especially in the division as weak as the AFC East. And I guess that'll segue into what we're talking about next. But I want to go back to the Seahawks yet because I haven't talked about them. So you give them an A-. I give them an A on the site. I think it's in Russell Wilson's prime, which is like right now, they don't have that many years of it. Like he was a rookie in 2012, so he's entering his 9th season. So at some point, Russell Wilson is going to decline. Like he's one of the top 2 quarterbacks in the NFL right now, as far as I'm concerned. And to surround him with a great talent like Jamal Adams on the defense to help him get the ball back, I think that's a huge boon for the Seahawks. So I really like the straight for them to go kind of all in right now. And I think they could certainly win the Super Bowl this year. They're 20-1 on many sportsbook sites. They're actually 13-1 on Bookmaker, but they're 20-1 on Bovada. We looked at DraftKings. They're 20-1. They're off the board on 5 dimes for some reason. At 20-1, do you think the Seahawks are a good bet to win the Super Bowl?
I think they are, because I actually, in my preseason predictions, when I went through the record of every team, I had the Seahawks winning the NFC West and being the number 2 seed. And that was before the Jamal Adams trade. And I wasn't like in love with the fact that they ended up being the 2 seed in that. But now that they have Adams, I can completely see that happening. They have a good team. They tend to play well against the teams in their division, even though they're tough. And so when they get to the playoffs, they'll already be kind of battle tested and ready to go if everything breaks well. I think Russell Wilson can lead that offense no matter what. We've seen him year after year carry the team, but if he has a strong defense backing him on one side of the ball, they're going to be one of the most well-balanced teams in the league. And you look at their roster, and there are some holes. Offensive line has always been a hole for them. They currently have Cedric Ogbuehi starting at right tackle, which is horrifying. As usual, we're going to mention Cordy Glenn and how they should probably sign him to play right tackle because it would be better than Ogbuehi. But I digress on that. But that's really one of their only weaknesses, aside from the pass rush, which we already hit on. They had Jadeveon Clowney last year, but he's still a free agent. So maybe they'll make a move there. Maybe they'll offload one of their many talented tight ends to get some capital to help them acquire some offensive line help or pass rusher. So I like the Seahawks. I think no matter what, this team's going to be good. And if they add to bolster one of their weaknesses, they'll be even better. So at 20-1 odds, I'd definitely be willing to bet them.
Okay. I wasn't sure if I was going to bet them or not because they were 30-1 earlier, and I kind of have FOMO after missing out on that. But 20-1, like the more I think about it, the more it makes sense. I moved them to the NFC Championship in my season previews, and I think you can make the case they're probably they could be the second best team in the NFC, maybe third best. So I think they are definitely in play to win the Super Bowl. And yeah, offensive line. Still probably the biggest weakness on the team. They spent a 3rd-round pick on Damian Lewis. Like maybe he pans out and gives them a good interior presence. Like we've seen rookie guards play well before, so it could happen. They spent a 2nd-round pick on Darrell Taylor, and to join LJ Collier from last year. And like you said, they added Bruce Irvin. So their pass rush doesn't look great right now. But if one of those guys steps up, and they both have major potential, like maybe their pass rush is pretty good. And then with that secondary, it just lights out. The defense is going to be great. So yeah, I'm thinking about betting the Seahawks at 20-1. And on the site, you may have noticed that I have the Jets, I believe, like 8-1 or 8.5-1 to win the AFC East. I posted that back in May, and I would not bet that now. So I hope you guys listening did not either. All right, so we had a couple of questions before we moved on to the opt-outs or comments. Keep the Film Room says Darnold may not get a second deal, and well, right now I still say they would just based on his potential. But if he has another stinker of a season, I don't think he will. We'll see. I guess we'll see. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's possible that he couldn't get a second deal, but I think he's on the track to getting a deal. I mean, we're still far off because he's going into his 3rd season. So they still have this year, the 4th year, and then the 5th year option to make a decision. So I think that he's going to pan out if he could stay healthy. And I mean that in terms of illness because he had mono last year and then we have the pandemic going on. So hopefully he doesn't get that. But I think, I still like Darnold's potential. He was one of my favorite quarterbacks in that draft class. So I think he'll get to a second deal with the Jets. But if not, someone else will pay him. He may end up in like a Marcus Mariota type scenario where he just couldn't stay healthy, but still has very high ceiling.
Yeah, like Ryan Tannehill signed a deal with the Titans, and maybe he takes over as a starter. I liked Darnold as well, and then he got mono, and I'm like, what other quarterbacks have gotten mono before? It's just so weird. Although I got mono at 24, so maybe I shouldn't say all that much. We have James Morgan. Could he take Darnold's job? Maybe we'll see. Is Jamal Adams a difference maker? His team still sucks with him. Well, think about it this way. They were 7-9 last year, and Darnold missed 4 games. And a lot of that was Jamal Adams. And when Jamal Adams was out of the lineup, the defense really struggled. So when Darnold was healthy, they were 7-5 with Jamal Adams. And I thought this team could do well this year, but not anymore. So I guess that's it. Any last words before we move on to the opt-outs?
Yeah, no, I'll just say Jamal Adams really is a difference maker. Guys on defense at positions that aren't pass rush don't always get a lot of love for what they do, but safeties who can guard half the field, make big hits, make really big difference making turnovers, like that's often overlooked. But Adams should not be overlooked because he did make a huge impact on that Jets team because they're not very good outside of him on defense.